All right, from a little bit of light-hearted news to some heavy kind of news. The rugby league world was rocked this week at the shock passing of Paul Green at the young age of 49. Unfortunately, taking his own life on Thursday. Yeah. Didn't really know how to react to this one. When the news comes through that that it is suicide, it's so sad. But let's try and remember him and go over his career accolades. What were your initial thoughts, Sean? You're a Queensland fan. He's been a Maroons coach. Was it a bit of disbelief, bit of shock?
Yeah, well, exactly. A bit of disbelief, shock. Like, what happens? He's been in conversation for a lot of different gigs all around the place. Yep. So, a long time legend, essentially. Probably, was a great football player, but did more, I think, as a coach post that. So, and he'd coached at almost every level. So, for a guy that had been in and around rugby league for 30 years, it's a bit of a shock to the system. And especially for the Queensland lads, a lot of those guys well respected. He was a Queensland coach. He was Cowboys coach. A lot of think of some of the immortals like JT and what that kind of meant to them. And it sounded, by all accounts, the Cowboys themselves were devastated, but then a lot of Queensland boys as well were also just as gutted from that kind of news. An outpouring across the league, minute silence in every game. It's just been a rough week all around in that regard.
I think the reaction from the league was nice. There were tributes aplenty. Fox Sports were pretty quick into trying to paying their respect, and like you mentioned, the minute silence and the black armbands around the league this week. But unfortunately, it doesn't bring him back. You can just try to remember the man that he was. He did play 162 NRL games, 95 for the Sharks, 35 for the Cowboys, and also some stints at the Roosters, Eels, and Broncos. But what he will be remembered for most, you would think, is coaching the Cowboys to their first and only premiership back in 2015. One of the great grand finals. You remember the Ben Hunt dropping of the football, the crazy sideline kick from JT, wheeling it back, and then the field goal to finish it off. As a neutral viewer in that one, who probably wanted the Cowboys to win. No offense to our Broncos listeners, but they'd been there, done that, and the Cowboys had never won one. It was a very exciting grand final, and it will be immortalised with the scenes of everyone getting around JT and swamping him, and Paul Green celebrating up in the box back in 2015. Did take them back to the big dance in 2018. Unfortunately, the Melbourne Storm way too good in that one. Something that I didn't know, and these little things that kind of come to fruition, unfortunately, often in tragic circumstances, is who Paul Green was outside of footy. And a brilliant man, a Harvard Business School graduate. So I think he must have done that via correspondence, and a fixed wing, so plane and helicopter pilot himself. The man must have had a fair bit, going on between the years to be able to achieve that on top of all his footballing accolades, and some reports coming out that he just wasn't really coping without football. I think that's, we can only summarise, speculate like how he was feeling, but it sounds like without football, without a dedicated gig, the grind of probably working 80 hours a week doing NRL coaching, he just lost his way a little bit, and just the demons got the best of him, unfortunately. It's so sad, and
exactly.
The people that miss out most are his wife Amanda, his two young kids, Jed and Emerson. Obviously our thoughts and condolences go to them. We start talking. We've started talking in the last sort of 5, maybe 10 years about mental health and the importance of speaking up. It ain't weak to speak. Are you okay? But it's maybe not that simple either, because it seemed like Paul Green was going okay. He was there for his son's birthday, I think, out at Dream World the day before. It's fucking tragic. But do what you can do in talking about it, in checking in on your mates, in speaking up if you are going through troubles. That's all we can. that we can take out of it as rugby league fans and as men, I guess.
Yeah, well, there's two kind of points that came out of this. Is I think from the whole Manly stuff a couple of weeks ago, doing a mental health awareness round in the NRL was probably useful. But I think Nico Hines covered it the best in his press conference the other day. It's, are you okay day is coming up in a couple of weeks, but asking the question, are you okay, every day is kind of what we you need to kind of be focusing on.
Yep.
Get around your lads, get around your mates, because not everyone has someone they can talk to.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's not going to prevent all of this. I don't think. Unfortunately, it's a kind of a blight on the human condition.
We talk about NRL as a gladiator sport. We've talked about like how it's it's mono, etc. But sometimes, you got to open those doors and let people in.
Exactly, and that's all that we can do.
Yeah.
But anyways, unfortunately, our families lost a husband and a father, and players have lost a coach, and mates have lost a mate. So, yeah, just wishing anyone that was personally affected by it all the best moving forward. Vale, Paul Graham.